Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Brenda. Today, I'll be talking to you about LVMH. This is my company research project for the MGT700 class at Westcliff University with Dr. Ernesto Varela. So our agenda for today, I'll start by telling you a bit about LVMH, who they are, what kind of products they sell, and where you can find them in the market. Then we'll move on to talk about the market. What are their clients doing? What do they look like in terms of age, demographics, and also what are the market trends that we're seeing? Then we'll talk about industry. We'll do a pestle analysis and we'll talk about the supply chain and what that looks like for their space. Move on to talk about finances. What does the health of those look like for the past couple of years, as well as what are the sensitivities? What are the things that they need to watch out for in the future to remain financially stable? Then we'll move on to an in-depth strategic analysis. We'll do a SWOT and embryo analysis and talk about what are some risks that LVMH needs to stay on top of. And then we'll end by giving some of my recommendations based on the research that I've done. So I'll start by telling you a bit about LVMH. Mohensi Louis Vuitton is a huge global company. It is a public company with over 75 brands in the luxury goods space. Pretty much any luxury brand that you can think of, I could bet there's a 50% chance they're owned by LVMH. Some of the type of products that they sell are bags, leather goods, watches, beauty, spirits, Hennessy whiskey, Moët Chandon champagne, accessories, shoes, and they also are starting to get into hotels. So really what they're trying to do is to communicate a luxury lifestyle, and they're trying to give that client anything that they need, that it encompasses that lifestyle that they want. So anything from the way that they're traveling, the shoes they're using, the luggage that they're using while traveling, the hotels they're staying at, all that type of stuff is who LVMH is and what they're trying to put out there. A few of the main better known brands that they own are Louis Vuitton, Celine, Loewe, Dior, and Moët and Hennessy, the liquor brands. So next I will talk to you about the market. So there are a few market trends that we're seeing in the luxury space, and a few big influencers that really move the needle when it comes to luxury are the regional economies, right? So what does the economy look like in certain parts of Europe where the majority of LVMH's clients are versus the US and South America, and how consumption really moves based on that economy? Obviously, technology, how are they transporting their goods, producing them, and then of course trade trends. So we'll talk about this later, but there are a few things that they usually have to watch out for when it comes to trade policy and the way that they globalize their company. Asia and up-and-coming economies are a huge trend for luxury right now. Asia had a 40% market share in 2022. The economy is becoming increasingly stronger in China and Southeast Asia and other markets like India, which grows about 15% every year. So really, when it comes to growth and what the plan is for the next few years, those are the regions where LVMH has to keep its eye on. A few other trends that we're seeing in the market, not just with LVMH brands, but with others in the space, are sustainability and personalization. So clients these days are really interested in understanding where their goods come from, where they ethically sourced, ethically made, the quality of them, but also how what the impact that they had to the environment. And then lastly, they care about the experiences they have when purchasing these goods. Are they able to purchase a personalized version of them and really make it their own as a way to express themselves via fashion? So, how does LVMH understand who their customer is? There are a few strategies they use for customer segmentation, but mainly what they do is clustering by demographic, psychographic, and behavior. And the way that they approach this is by keeping track of who purchases their goods via customer relationship management or CRM. And they look at data like sales data, e-commerce data, who's visiting their sites, what are they buying, how much is it converting, as well as data from loyalty programs that some of their brands offer, not all of them, but that really helps them understand who is it that is coming to shop their products, what drives them to shop, and how frequently they are coming back. So, a few of the key metrics that they track when it comes to getting to know their customers are customer lifetime value, or CLV, which is pretty much how much money they have spent in LVMH products throughout their lifetime. Average expenditure per order. Are they a high value client? Are they more of an aspirational, one time, not that frequent client? And how frequently they are purchasing stuff with their brands. So based on all of that information, um, you can understand that there are two main key groups of customers for LVMH brands. The first one is aspirational buyers. They are young, they are not that frequent, and they usually shop online. Think of the girl who is in her 20s. She saved up a lot of money, and she just bought her first Louis Vuitton bag, or the person who just graduated college and got a Chanel bag as a gift from her parents, as graduation present, something like that. And then you have your high net worth individuals who are frequent shoppers. They are shopping more trendy, seasonal items. They like to shop at the physical stores as opposed to online. And really, when it comes to strategizing their growth, it has become an interesting challenge for LVMH because they have to target to these clients who are both very, very different from one another. And we'll look into how they've done this in the next few slides. Now I'm going to talk about the industry. You see a lot of words here, but talking about all the different factors that are influencing LVMH and their performance across the luxury goods space when it comes to a petal analysis. What are the political things that are influencing performance or that they need to watch out for? First of all, as I told you before, it's a global company, so pretty much anything that happens in the world, it's going to affect one of their brands in some way. There are trade regulations that are happening. A lot of things are happening when it comes to trade groups and regions in the world. Brexit was a big hit for LVMH. The consolidation of NATO and other trade regions are things that they need to watch out for. Tariffs specifically, now that we are coming into a new administration here, but also in other parts of the world. There have been tariff hikes between the US and China throughout the past couple of years, which is something that they have had to mitigate via hedging and other financial strategies. And then lastly, there are counterfeit restrictions in some countries, right? Really what LVMH wants is for people not to be able to copy their products and sell counterfeit. So that is something that really benefits them and that they need to advocate for. When it comes to economic factors, inflation, of course, these are luxury goods. They are things that people only spend money if they have money to spare. So inflation and personal finances of people are really influential towards their decisions to buy. Exchange rates, of course. Like I said, a lot of the products from LVMH brands are produced and mainly purchased in Europe, but they also have to watch out for fluctuations for other big markets, especially now that Asia, India, and the US are growing. Seasonal economic cycles, specifically, how high value pieces, they need to understand what times of year people are buying these things so they can prepare for inventory. And then, like I mentioned before, the growth of the Asian luxury market. A few social things they need to watch out for are consumer trends. What do people care about? What do they want to buy these days? Is it luxury? And if it is, what does it look like? A rise in sustainability awareness. So, like I mentioned previously, people really care about where their goods come from and whether or not they were ethically made and had an impact in the environment. And then generational trends and people continuously searching for experiences when they're shopping for their first luxury items. A few technological the things that they need to care for are trade technologies, right? So who is transporting these goods and how they're being transported? What are the costs of airfare or air traffic, shipping containers, And also, what are the new trends within e-commerce, right? Like I said, there's a big search for experiences. What are the things that LVMH can offer their clients who are shopping online? A few legal implications are production regulations, labor regulations, trademark concerns, among others. And lastly, environmental. They really have been trying to um, invest in emissions-free practices in the last couple years, making sure that the supply chain and raw material regulations are something that they abide to and that they are also sourcing raw materials from ethical points of view. And then lastly, it's a big thing that influences packaging costs and packaging design as well. It's something that they have had to rethink in the past couple of years. What does a value chain look like for LVMH? Um, a few of their big focuses are, like I said before, high quality materials that are sourced from really ethical vendors and ethical producers within different countries. They really focus on artisanal craftsmanship. Most of their stuff is made by hand in a very artisanal way, hence the price of the ultimate goods. They have really high production standards and quality standards. And then when those goods are ready to be sold, they have two main channels that they still really focus a lot on, and which are brick and mortar traditional stores and e-commerce. And like I said before, these two are equally important for LVMH because they need to cater to those two types of customers, right? To the woman in her 50s in the Upper East Side looking to buy a Lady Dior bag in the store with her sales associate that she's known for 15 years, but also the girl in Ohio who just graduated high school and wants a Louis Vuitton bag as a present from her parents and is shopping online because she doesn't have an LV store in her town. They are both equally important for LVMH and they have very different needs. So they need to optimize the value chain to really focus on both of those needs at the same time. And then lastly, a few of the trends we're seeing, like I said, the digital transformation, producing new experiences online. A few things that LVMH has done is their e-tailer service, particularly for their 24S brand, where you can get measurements and get a custom-made suit or dress all shopped online. You don't have to step into a store, and it is really a great luxury experience that you can have from the comfort of your home. They have developed AR, augmented reality fashion shows where you can experience them from your living room, you know. A few years ago, even a decade ago, fashion shows and fashion weeks across the world were a very exclusive experience that only a select few had access to. And now pretty much anyone can live stream or experience those things from the comfort of their home. And then they really want to have authentic experiences and offer something that the clients are comfortable with. Now we'll talk about finances. Um, Pretty much in summary, the last couple of years have been very healthy for LVMH in terms of financial growth. 79 point, they declared a 79.2 billion in euro in revenue and a 17% year-on-year growth in 2023, which is higher than anything they have in the past 5 or 10 years. Their most important segment, which is not surprising, are fashion and leather goods, bags, wallets, anything related to fashion. It accounts for 50% of their total sales. Their EBITDA of 34% is much higher than the industry average of 22%. And they also declared a very healthy operating cash flow, 3.6 billion euro by mid-2024. They are on track to beat their numbers from last year when it comes to the end of this year. So again, very healthy finances all across the globe. And something that has really helped them remain this way is the way that they have diversified their portfolio of products and markets. We'll talk about financial sensitivity. So, what are the things that they need to look out for to make sure that their finances remain as healthy as they have been? The first one is exchange rates, the most important one. Like I said, we saw a trend a couple years ago where the euro and the dollar were pretty much the same value. So people were traveling to Europe from the US to purchase these goods at a much lower price, which really impacted the overall profitability of companies like every brand that LVMH has. Um, 70% of their income comes from outside of Europe. So they have to be very careful. One thing that they've done is, like I mentioned previously, implement aggressive hedging financial strategies, but also adjusting prices based on the market and really taking exchange rate into account when those prices are set. So really looking externally and not just at their cost to set prices, but also what is happening in the world that could affect those. Consumer sentiment, of course, is something that really can hinder or improve the finances of LVMH. They really care about their clients, thinking good things of them, knowing where their products come from and how ethically they are sourced, but also personal circumstances, right? Personal finances are very important because, like I said, people don't usually spend money on these things unless they have money to spare. So they really have to make sure that they're in the best terms with our clients at any time possible to make sure that they retain those dollars. And then raw material costs, something that is completely external. Materials of high quality can be expensive, they can be costly, they can be affected by tariffs. So these are only a few things that they need to watch out for. Next, we'll jump into a strategic analysis, starting with some risks. Geopolitical risks, we talked about tariffs before. This is something they really need to watch out for, especially as they expand internationally into different, not only countries, but also continents. And unstable political landscapes, anything can happen. You know, alliances can be formed or destroyed very quickly these days. So that's something to watch out for. A few market risks are international conflicts, which hinder that the way that people travel and consume these goods, especially this hospitality segment in hotels, changes in regulations and consumer sentiment, which we've talked about before. Some operational risks, seasonality and inventory, not really understanding customer demand can lead to excessive stock, which is really hindering for these type of brands because they don't usually um, offer sales to retain their exclusivity. And just like they can have excessive stock, they can have shortages in stock as well, which is a missed opportunity. So that's something that they really need to calculate based on data. And then finally, ESG risks, environmental policy, again, making sure that they are sourcing all things ethically, that they are paying workers enough, and so on and so forth. They really should be taking care of that because their reputation depends on that. And lastly, some material sourcing, like I mentioned previously. For a SWOT analysis, a few of LVMH's strengths are that they have a wide variety of brands. So this really makes it so they mitigate risk. It means that, even if one sector is not performing as well, the others probably are. So it really puts them at a high advantageous position. And the more and more brands that they purchase, the more secure that they are. Because they have these many brands, they also have a really strong market share in the luxury space in general. Their quality is top notch. All of their brands are made with high quality materials and artisanally crafted. And their clients know this, which keeps them coming back. And then, well, like I mentioned before, diversifying has brought them to success. A few weaknesses, even though, like we mentioned previously, the markets outside of Europe are growing tremendously. They have had a really deep concentration in Europe until recent times. So it is important that they understand the needs and interests of other clients in other markets. And then some brands have a strong association with traditional marketing strategies and are having it a difficult time adapting to e-commerce and other digital revolution trends with Gen Z and other new types of customers. A few opportunities are expanding their presence via e-commerce, getting more sites in more countries for more of their brands, and approaching environmentally conscious customers with more information about how they produce their products. A few threats, like I mentioned before, economic fluctuations, particularly in Europe, since this is where the goods are being produced. Intense competition from new up-and-coming brands, but also long-established luxury brands from other companies, and changes in the personal finances of people. Next, we'll talk about the real analysis. A few items that bring value to LVMH are the reputation. They have some of these brands have been around for decades, which really brings them a good reputation within their market. Market share, of course, they have a really big share in the market given the amount of brands that they have and the diversification of the brand portfolio. What makes them rare is that they are heritage brands that, like I said, have been around for a really long time. So people know these names. They have, some of them are the people that started the fashion revolution in France decades ago. And those names are really always going to sell. These brands have signature prints and characteristics that people immediately associate with the brand, even if they are not a common luxury client. And then lastly, what they have done to attract new up-and-coming younger customers are collaborations with artists and other up-and-coming designers. The imitability for these products is slow because of how iconic and signature some of these products are, because of the historical heritage and reputation of the brands as well. And then lastly, when it comes to organization, having so many brands that operate as separate companies, even though they're all part of the LVMH conglomerate, really helps them to diversify their portfolio to mitigate risk, but also to stay healthy and control the numbers as much as they can financially as a public company. Lastly, I'll talk about some recommendations about how LVMH can continue to be successful and even improve on what they already have. First one, expand sustainability. We've talked about this throughout the presentation. They need to retain younger generations, really show them how things are made and that they can trust the real luxury of these goods. It's not only good quality, but also ethical. Enhance their digital presence. This is really going to help them again with these younger generations, but also it's going to help them reach new markets that they don't have physical stores in and really get clients that are up and coming in all of these new markets to shop for these brands and understand what they are and really get happy with them. Another advantage of enhancing their digital presence is that it will give them more access to data. What things are more common, what things are popular but are not selling, where people are coming from, their ages, and other interests as well. The next one is keeping a healthy balance between heritage and innovation. So this means that as much as they are bringing their brands to the 21st century and becoming very present online, they also want to retain their high value clients that have been around for decades and go to their store, like I mentioned, with their sales associates. So keeping a good balance between the two is something that there is going to become increasingly a bigger challenge for LVMH in the next few years. Diversifying in the market. It's something that they've already done before, but we saw a really big trend as well of them getting to really wanting to tap into new markets like China and India. So diversifying into those markets, understanding their needs, and producing goods that are of interest to them, but also acquiring brands that are already well loved within those segments and within those regions is going to help them gain reputation quicker within those markets. And then continue personalization initiatives. This is really important, particularly for the Gen Z and millennial clients who are looking for rich experiences while shopping, not only online, but also in store. Thank you so much. That is my talk about LVMH, and these are my resources. Thank you very much for your time.